What's up, sports bettors? Alex here, and I know I've already given out a variety of picks for today on Underdog Fantasy. We have Adams over 9.5 rebounds, Kuzma over 1.5 threes, Garland over 2.5 threes. Okay, then we have this NFL prop, and then I locked in this as well. So what we're going to be doing is I have one last pick. It's my absolute favorite. It's an absolute bomb, 1750 to win 10.5K. So let's go ahead and let's get into it. These are three really good, this is one you got to be on. So as I always say too, just to make it clear, these are plays I ride with you guys on, the wins, the losses. I'm riding them all. All plays are found using data, right? We're finding picks with an edge. So I would have used this Lamar Jackson prop again, but I already maxed it. For the NFL, if I include NFL picks in an entry, I'm not sure if every user is different, but you'll notice they only give you a max of $1,000. So because I already have Lamar in this entry right here, I can only get another, I can't include this pick in this current entry. But regardless, there's a lot of positive EV plays, so let's go through it. First, Darius Garland, over 2.5 made threes. I went with this play. And the logic is, right, the strategy is, if you're new to Underdog Fantasy, is they don't vary your payout depending on if you select the over or the under, right? So if you go here and you just select 3 random props, you're going to notice you're betting 1 to win 6. You switch that to an under, 1 to win 6. You switch this to an over, 1 to win 6. It never changes. So your payout doesn't vary depending on the picks you select, or if you take over or under. So essentially the strategy, the way that the sharps make money off Underdog Fantasy as well as Prize Picks and Thrive, is they look for these spots where the bookies have the over heavily juiced. Here, for example, we can see Pinnacle Sportsbook, which is the sharpest bookmaker in the world. They're pricing Garland over 2.5 threes at minus 149. 1.5 to 1 favorite, a 60% favorite. And you can get this in your Underdog entry. So we've gone through kind of the math behind Underdog Fantasy and how it relates to, parlays. Here's a World Cup parlay I gave out on a sportsbook. Sportsbooks have odds, right? There's odds. Underdog Fantasy doesn't. It's any 3-leg parlay. You're betting 1 to win 6. So we've been through this math, kind of a bunch of times. But when you're betting 1 to win 6, if we go back to a parlay calculator, you're going to notice that this is essentially like placing a 3-leg parlay where every leg is minus 122. So that's the juice, right? That's the implied juice on Underdog Fantasy, minus 122. So just like when you're betting on a sportsbook, I've given out a lot of plays on WinBet today, Gardner Webb +4, tons of picks for tonight. I've been all over the sportsbooks today. Again, riding with you guys on all these plays, so hopefully you're able to tail a lot of them, is when you're betting on Underdog, you just assume you're getting minus 122 odds. So why do we like this Lamar play? Well, all the bookies have the under as a heavy favorite. Pinnacle and Bet Online, 2 of the sharpest bookmakers in the world, they're pricing this at minus 167, minus 164. You're getting it minus 122, right? You're clearly beating the vig, beating the juice, which is why this is the top positive EV bet, mathematically profitable bet on Underdog Fantasy. So I highly recommend, you kind of take some time to watch the tutorial videos about Underdog if you haven't. But essentially all OddsJam is doing is it's taking, these freaking, keep scrolling, these tens of thousands, if not more, of odds on Underdog Fantasy and showing you those soft spots where the bookies, the sports books have the under or the over heavily juiced, and you can get it in your Underdog entry. So obviously when the under is a lot more likely to hit than the over is, as is the case for Lamar Jackson passing touchdowns, all the sportsbooks have the under heavily favored, and you can get it on Underdog. That's a ridiculous play, right? A play with an edge. So this play alone has a 3% profit margin. So if you parlayed it with this Josh Giddey one, then you have an Underdog entry with a 5% profit margin. The returns compound in an Underdog entry. So this is the next play we want to be on. Again, doesn't matter if you're looking at the NFL. Doesn't matter if you're looking at the NBA. It's the exact same strategy. Here, all the sports books, we're we're like a day trader. You're looking for value. You're like an investor. You're looking for value. If there's value in the NBA, you bet on the NBA. If there's value in the NFL, you bet on the NFL. If there's value on Lamar Jackson props, that's what you're playing. You don't just go into a day being like, oh, I want to bet on, the Panthers-Ravens game. I want to bet on Lamar under 1.5 passing touchdowns. No, absolutely not. You go, you look at the market, you see where there's value enough to beat the vig and get a positive expected return, and you hit that bet. So again, I did not include this in the most recent entry, but you should definitely, this is the top play. You should max it if you can. So Darius Garland, over 2.5 threes, ridiculous value. No other bookie giving better than, minus 135. Clearly, the over should be favored. Pinnacle has this minus 149. And then finally, we have Wendell Carter Jr., Wendell Carter under 3.5 assists. All the sports books, there's a little disagreement. DraftKings minus 135, FanDuel minus 158, minus 169. But just looking across the entire market, it's pretty clear that this is a great play. A play we want to be on. The under is favored. So again, like sports books, they imply win probabilities through their odds. So we're getting minus 122 on Underdog. If you look at Pinnacle, they have the over for Garland at minus 149, the under at plus 112. So if you go to a no-vig odds calculator and you just put in Pinnacle's market, they're essentially saying, hey, Darius Garland over 2.5 threes is, 55.92% to occur, implying a no-vig win probability or no-vig odds of minus 127. So you're always getting value, right, to the no-vig odds. Like we're getting minus 122 on Underdog Fantasy. The no-vig line is minus 127. So we're always looking for value, right? So anyways, what's the next play I went with is from the Odds Jam Arbitrage tool. So what's really cool about this Arbitrage tool is it's just another way to find line discrepancies, right? So the EV tool requires a certain number of sports books and has certain checks and whatever, stuff like that. But here, this is an arbitrage bet because you could have bet, if under, by definition, when the under, when the plus number is bigger than the minus number, than the favored outcome, you could bet on both sides and make a risk-free profit. That's called arbitrage betting. So most people who use this tool, all they're doing is they're literally going to a sports book and placing an over and then going to another sports book, placing an under and making a risk-free profit due to discrepancies in odds. And it's not like there's a ton of arbitrage bets. If you look across the entire market, there's a lot around 0.5%, a lot fewer at 3%. But essentially, sportsbooks, they're not perfect. They screw up sometimes. So out of the millions of odds on sportsbooks, there's these rare few betting opportunities where you can take the over on one bookie, take the under on another bookie, and you make a risk-free profit. That's called arbitrage betting, right? And by definition, whenever an arbitrage bet exists, you can literally make risk-free money. One bet has to be profitable, positive EV. Positive EV means profitable. So in this case, clearly, we want to be on Ayton over 1.5 assists. You can take it on Prize Picks. You can take it on Underdog Fantasy. But what you'll notice is if we just click into the odds, is wow, and we look across the market, every sports book, and again, it's free to browse odds on OddsJam. Any game you want to look at, any market you want to look at, main lines, whatever, it's completely free. So this play is just, oh my gosh, it's incredible. If we go to Ayton, where are you, baby? So if we go back to Ayton, it's every sportsbook has this minus 170, minus 175. We're getting this minus 122. FoxBet has this minus 182. It's almost a 2-to-1 favorite, right? And you can get this on Prize Picks or on Underdog. Ridiculous play. Superbook has this minus 182. So that's how you make money sports betting, right? This is actually the top play. Screw the Lamar Jackson one. This one is ridiculous, right? That minus 122 looks incredible. Nearly every sportsbook has this minus 175 or more favored. So absolutely ridiculous play, especially that 8-1. So I locked it in. Wendell Carter Jr. under 3.5 assists. DeAndre Ayton over 1.5 assists. Garland over 2.5 threes. Hopefully this was helpful. Let's make money, guys.